So often people ask me, how did you come up with the name? How did you guys decide on Riderflex? I get that all the time. We interview job candidates because we're a recruiting firm, so we do that for a living. We speak to candidates all day long. Probably 25% of them say, by the way, why Riderflex? How'd you come up with the name? We meet with clients. They all want to know. Everybody wants to know, how'd you come up with Riderflex? I've been dodging the question for years. I thought I'd put out an episode about it. Here you go. Here's how we came up with the name. You ready? Somewhat interesting story with a little punchline at the end. So my career, I was an operations executive. I ended up running a couple of $40 million companies as a CEO, president, COO. That was most of my career. Anyway, 2013, I'm taking an airplane from DC back to Denver. I was wrapping up my last executive job with a regular company. I'm riding the plane, got bumped up to first class. So I had a few drinks, because they're free. I'm sitting there thinking, now keep in mind, by this time, I was so sick of flying. Like seriously. I mean, I flew every week. I was one of those million mile flyer guys. I mean, I flew all the time. I was sick of it. I hated the airport. I hated everything about it. Even when I got bumped up to first class. Let me put it this way. I was so sick of flying that I would get out of my car in the parking lot. This is in the parking garage of the airport. I'd put my headphones on before I even got into the airport because I didn't want to hear anybody. I didn't want to hear anything. So I put my headphones on, put my sunglasses on sometimes because I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to make eye contact with anybody. And even I had some mentholatum. You guys know what mentholatum is? You used to spread it on your chest when you had a cold. At least we did when I was young. Anyway, I had a little bottle of, little jar of mentholatum with me. And I would put that like right underneath my nose. You know why? Because I didn't want to smell anybody. I didn't want to be set by some guy on the airplane, body odor, he's eating all kinds of food, smelling his breath, everything. I was sick of it. I was sick of flying. Everything about it, I hated. Even when I got bumped up first class, I still just hated it. Anyway, went off on a tangent there. So I'm riding this airplane, right, from DC to Denver, and I'm thinking, I got to get off these damn planes. I'm always riding these damn planes. I was saying that to myself after about the third drink, and I was also planning on coming up with a company name because I knew I was going to start consulting. I knew I was going to open up my own consulting LLC. I didn't know if it was going to be operations consulting. I knew I wanted to do a little recruiting, didn't know for sure, still kind of formulating my plan. And so I got a notepad out and I'm writing down, I'm writing it down. Every time I come up with an idea, I'm writing it down. And at some point I was like, man, I'm always riding these damn planes. Ride. So I was like, yeah, ride. That's what I'm going to do. As a consultant, I'm going to ride in. I'm going to ride in and fix stuff. I'm going to ride in and make it better because I was an operations guy. So that was most of my career was cleaning stuff up, fixing things, making operations better. I was an operator. And so ride, I had my first word, right? Ride. I knew I was going to ride in and do something. So like ride, okay, ride. And like Blue Rider, I'm coming up with all these names. I'm writing them down on the airplane, 2-hour flight, 3-hour flight. I guess it was from DC or something like that, 3.5-hour flight. Coming up with all these combinations of words. I get home, talking to my wife, and she goes, "Ride? You mean like Rider? Like the Roosevelt Rough Riders?" That was our high school. The high school that we lived by here in Johnstown, Colorado, is called the Roosevelt Rough Riders. And she goes, yeah, how about riders? And I said, okay, riders, rider. Rider, yeah, I like that. Okay, let me come up with some combinations. So anyway, I spent the next 2 days putting words into GoDaddy combinations, right? Ride in, ride, you name it. Okay, I put it in there. Ride flex, ride improve, ride, you name it. Blue Rider, all kinds of. I knew that the word combo needed to have something to do with coming into your business and fixing it, making it better. Finally, I came up with, or I found one that was available, Riderflex. And I thought, wow, that's it. That's it. That's it. We ride in, you flex up. Basically, we come in and we help you and you get better, right? We ride in, you flex up, Riderflex. Boom. I bought the URL, right? So then the consulting started. I started doing some consulting, but I hated that because I was tired of being an operations executive and I was back on some airplanes. Didn't want to do that. So I called my best buddy, 𝐂𝐚𝐥𝐿, and I said, hey man, I want to turn Riderflex into a recruiting firm full-time. I want to do recruiting, 90% recruiting. I just want to do recruiting. I want to do it remote. And Scott said, okay, well, yeah, you're crazy. He's like, there's 20,000 recruiters. Why do you want to be a recruiting firm? And I said, well, because most of them suck. Yeah, they're kind of like real estate agents, right? There's millions of them, but really not very many are good. No offense to all the good real estate agents and all the good recruiters out there, but the reality is the math says most of them suck. Okay. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. So I said, let's be a recruiting firm. I'm an operator. I'll make damn sure we execute well. I'll make sure the recruiters execute because that's what I do for a living as an operator. I make sure, execution is top notch. You just go get the gigs. I said, you get the gigs, I'll fill the gigs. He's like, what are we going to call it? I said, we're going to call it Riderflex. And he said, what? What does that have to do with recruiting? Shouldn't you call it like something recruiting or something search firm, urban search firm or whatever? And as a joke, we'd had 2 or 3 beers at Buffalo Wild Wings. We were scratching the shit out on a napkin. I said, I know what we can do. Because if you've ever seen a picture of Scott, he's bald like me. I said, I know what we can do. We can call it Bald Guys Recruiting. We actually looked that up. I actually own the URL at GoDaddy, Bald Guys Recruiting. I have it. Go ahead, laugh it out. Anyway, I said, how about Bald Guys Recruiting? We came home, we told our wives, we're going to call it Bald Guys Recruiting. And our wives were like, no, you're not. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to be professional enough. So anyway, I went back and I pushed him on Riderflex. Like, man, I like Riderflex. We ride in, you flex up. He's like, okay, whatever. Riderflex, fine. Let's get going. Looking back, we probably should have called it a company name with the word recruiting or staffing, like somewhere in the company name, because you do better with SEO search and organic search on Google. Too late now. It's already Riderflex. We've spent the last 5-6 years building that brand. So it is what it is. That's how we came up with Riderflex. Now, here's a little side note, right? Little punchline, little extra piece to this story. After a couple of years of major sacrifice, the first 2 years, Scott and I paid ourselves almost nothing, right? Like both of us were making really good money. I mean, I don't mind telling you, I don't mind telling the world, I was clearing $250,000 a year or more as an executive, making really good money. Guess how much I made the first year of Riderflex? I think it was like 30 grand or something like that. We were starving. I'll never forget when I told my wife, I said, yeah, I'm going to stop being an executive and open up my own recruiting business. And she goes, oh yeah, that's great. How much is that going to pay? I don't know. Probably not very much. Anyway, what was my point there? My point was we paid ourselves crap the first couple of years. We finally started making a little bit of money year 3. So finally starting to get this stuff off the ground after major sacrifice from our families. I mean, in all seriousness, major sacrifice. Our wives were so awesome to support us during this whole thing. Our family struggled. We didn't have very much money. We both dipped into savings, all the rest of it, all your typical startup story stuff, right? I think like the 3rd year, we had this young lady who came to work for us, and she wanted to change the name. She's like, yeah, you can't. She's like, Riderflex, you got to change that. So, that's a sucky name. You got to come up with something different so people will be able to find us on Google. You got to change the name. So one night, sorry, that was my phone. One night, my wife's making dinner. I'm in the kitchen, and I tell her, I'm like, hey, this girl that works for us, she thinks we should change the name. My wife had a couple of glasses of wine, and she snaps her head around and she goes, well, you tell Mary that if she wants to name a company, she can start one herself. She's like, we ain't changing the name. I was like, I called Scott the next day. I said, we ain't changing the name. The point there is, after years of sacrifice on my wife's part too, right? She is all in, super passionate about the brand as well. And even though she doesn't work in it every day, she's super protective of it, which is why I love her so much. And Scott's wife is the same way. Anyway, there's how we came up with Riderflex. And there is your Riderflex episode of the day.